Hello, YouTube. I'm Gearrod, and I came to present to you guys a deck that I've been working on for a really long time. It's mostly just for my Yu-Gi Bros. Shout out to OS Yu-Gi-Oh. Uh, Pretty much just to show how the deck works. The big deal is call them the Holy Gishkis, but they're really just Heretic Gishkis. They saw a lot of play back then in the DN days, back before Death Pro came out, but um, the big deal why people stopped using this deck was because Gustraken was insta-limited. He went down to 1 right when he came out. The big deal, I think the deck is still playable. The big deal is that Gustraken pretty much first turn can just make this like really nice wind-up loop, except puts big monsters on the table instead of just taking away the hand. So you get to look at 2 cards in the opponent's hand and get to choose one that you don't want in there, and yeah, pretty much just get to take it away. First turn is pretty devastating, especially if take away, say, Dark Hole, but I leave you with an MST. So it's a pretty good deck. I've been using it for a really long time. I've been testing out Gishkis for a really long time, and I think they're pretty fun. They're pretty overlooked. Do okay against the meta. The meta right now looks pretty interesting, obviously with all the dragons running around and prophecy. But it does pretty well first turn against any deck, especially since if you don't give your opponent a chance to use anything that they have, then they won't even be able to duel, which is pretty trolly if you ask me, but that's okay. Pretty sure everybody wouldn't mind with Super Rejuve running around and Judgment Day and all that stuff. Either way, there's a few duels. They're kind of old. I think I'm still this build is pretty old as well, but I've made a few touch-ups, but it still does a pretty good job. Dueling fairies. The deck has a pretty good toolbox of different monsters. They all pretty much search. Vision searches the ritual monster. Shadow first searches the ritual card. And Beast is pretty much what a lot of Xyz plays goes around him, because he gets a special summon a level 4 lower a monster from the graveyard. He's not too bad. But another really good card is Mind August, the one that was just summoned right here. Mind August's effect is he gets to get 5 cards in any graveyard and put them back into the decks, into their respective decks, whether they be extra deck cards or whatever. But they also can recycle magic cards and trap cards. So if you want to use Dark Hole a few times in the game, then if you draw them, you can. I think this is the only time I've ever had to use Force Focus against any deck. Let's see. Yeah. Hand Destruction isn't that bad of a card in this deck, because the idea is if you send an Aquamirror and a Ritual monster, then you don't neg at all. That's a big issue with Hand Destruction. You get rid of 3 cards to just draw 2. But with these guys, you get the Aquamirror effect, grab your Ritual back, and you just go 3 for 3. Obviously, a big star of the show is Ptolemy's. Ptolemy's gets to pretty much get a card from anywhere and put it back into the hand. So the big card that you want to get back is Shadow. Shadow goes searches your Aquamirror. And Aquamirror recycles your Ritual monster. So pretty much, if you just have a few dragons. Speaking of which, here's a elemental dragon player, I guess, using a really weird build. I haven't dueled enough dragon players to really know what they play, but I don't know what Form uses Typhone. Typhone number 2. Said before, Mind August here takes away a few cards from their toolbox, gets rid of all their dragons in the graveyard. So it's definitely not the worst card in the world. He kind of annoyed me with the Injector play, so I had to kind of he took my Ghost Rockin', so I had to take away his only card in hand and everything away from the graveyard. Drawing 2 vanillas is kind of an issue. Drawing vanillas in any deck is an issue, but in this deck, it could be worse. At this point, I figured out that I was playing against the Dark World deck, so I'm like, I'm just going to go all ham and pretty much just get rid of my whole entire hand. So I can extract Bouncer, see what happens next turn, but I think I took away his only 2 monsters, so he didn't really have a good top deck. So, and here's another one of those dragon players, except I think this was pretty early on when people were still figuring out how to play them, so not a lot of people knew how to. This guy, I don't know, he made that card, which I'm not even 100% sure what it does. I think it's if the card would be targeted or something like that, and nothing happens to it. Either way, I had the nuts in hand. Vision Shadow and double salvage is pretty gross. The only thing that would have made this hand a little better if I would have had a dragon to tribute that wasn't a vanilla. But other than that, pretty good hand. Dude decides to use Red Eyes effect whenever there's a strike bouncer on the field. Either way, the deck is pretty good. I have a lot of fun playing, not really competitively, but locally. My friends. It's a pretty budget deck too. The only really expensive cards in the deck are Ptolemies, and that's just $20 each right now for a Hidden Arsenal 7 copy. Everything else is just pretty much like pretty cheap. Finally drew into a dragon. Didn't use Ghost Rockin's effect. Didn't need to. I just wanted the extra monster on the field. Finally uses that super rejuve. Would have done a little better if he would have done it in first turn, but at this point, I'm pretty sure he knew. Anyways, YouTube, thank you for listening. I just wanted to show you guys this deck, and I'll see you guys later.